Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Andronetalks Radio. Today we have a special guest. Some of you know him as Taino. The ACIO knows him as Tyson. And so we're going to have a little discussion because Tyson is in Colorado, and he's going to share with us some of his experiences. He's taking a trip. And so without further delay, I'm going to bring Tyson in. Hello, how are you today?
I'm good, Jessica. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Rolf, and greetings to all the audience from Jessica's YouTube channel and, the whole other website as well. So greetings to everyone.
Yeah, so, just for those of you who don't know, Tyson is from Unit 374, and for the ACIO is one of the teams, and so he is going to give us his opinion and what he is experiencing right now. So let's go into it, and so of course you got to be at the infamous the airport in Denver. Let us know what your experience was.
Oh, sure. I think I shared to you earlier when I land, right, that area, it felt familiar, right? The landscaping, the environment, and from the outside, the airport has a weird design because the tents, the white tents that has when you're looking at it from outside, now I'm thinking at it, I'm going to take a look at it from a aerial view to see if there's, coded messages, from if you go on Google and aerial view. But the thing is, so when I was landing, that design was weird. But prior arriving right at Colorado, and this is the thing, with all the things that I heard about the IA, all right, so I saw that the connection it's linked with Area 58, which is something that Peter shared, I believe, either at the beginning of the year or at the end of last year. And when you look, really, because you have Colorado to the west, you would have Utah, and then Nevada, right? And south, you have New Mexico, and I think west of Mexico is Arizona. So Area 58, since Peter was stating it's really huge, well, I think it's overlapping on the ground, even here in Colorado. So that's the major link I saw. And yeah, so right inside of the airport, the other particular thing that I saw was when I took that shuttle train to go from the main airport to grab my luggage. So you have to go through, I think it's 3 terminals, depending, where, depending which flight company you took, right? You have to get out at either terminal A, B, I think it's C. And when I was in the terminal, I felt that because you showed me like a video earlier, probably a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, of a guy,
Mhm.
that went over there, and I could pick that there were other train routes. When I was in that place, I felt that okay, there's other tracks at lower levels. So when I came here, when I arrived where I'm at, right, I did some investigation and could extract and tell that, yeah, there's definitely other train or probably maglev train, but at low levels, that's for sure, and that is for sure. And this is that connection with Area 58 in here. I saw why one of the reason why there's it's called popularly alien. Uh, when I say alien, more of a status immigration, right? But I saw that there were a lot of, I'm saying only people or groups of people from Area 58 were sent to the Denver International Airport, and over there, came to the surface. But I'm saying too that those people that travel or that they may travel here, right, won't remember, um, won't remember it because of the mind wipe process. But yeah, and what I saw too was this involvement, right, from benevolent group, and um, what I'm seeing too is Murkoch's involvement, because here the landscape is beautiful, especially where I was or currently am, right, in Canada, other area. There's some similarities, but the thing is, there's with those kind of landscape, you may get hypnotized in a sense that you would never thought that there's really more, either through mountains or underground, right? And that beauty can fool people because what I'm seeing too here is, especially when you go, let's say, outside of Denver, in that suburb type of places where you have that beautiful nature places. I see Murkoff is quite present in Colorado, and another corporation too that you and Peter just probably talked since last year. It's Rainstorm, um, especially now with the connection with Area 58. Yeah, Rainstorm is heavily um,
So
present here.
let's look at ACIO website.
Mhm.
And so people who are not familiar with Murkoff is one of the nefarious groups that are part of the worldwide military corporations. And so these are the positive ones. And as we scroll down, we come to some of the negative influences. There's Typhon, which is connected over in Colorado right now, where you're at,
Right.
and known through the Life is Strange True Colors.
Mhm.
And here is Murkoff, which is typically was recognized to be up in Canada. And so I'm thinking about what you're saying as to whether it kind of oh, followed you there or if they actually have a base there, which both could be possible.
But um, Murkoff was it's well planted, like you mentioned, Canada, but Montreal. People were knew what went on at the McGill University with all the mind control activities whatsoever. But I think through conversation that we had a couple of months ago. You know, Peter was confirming that, yeah, Markov was actually bringing all the design, but their names was never mentioned here and then, right? It's only
Yeah.
CIA stuff, but who's supplying CIA with techniques and procedure whatsoever? Markov. So, um, and one of the game that should talk. It's funny, because sometimes I play a game to study, but it's probably a year ago I play, or 6 months ago I had to study the game Outlast, which
Right.
the storyline is somewhere in Colorado, and and
That makes sense. Yep. All right.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, well, that there's this, like you said, if the landscape looks similar, there could be something going on there, because that's where Murkoff comes from, is from that video game Outlast.
yeah,
And
and
Project Wall Rider. And this is one of the most vicious, very, very brutal, inhumane. Murkoff himself was insane, and he was like a mad scientist, doctor. So, I mean, even Russia, as experimental as they were, did not approve of his techniques because they were too brutal.
yeah, and but and that's the thing now, right? You've talked about those self-disclosure games, but now you come to a point. It depends. It depends of the individual. Because for some individuals, yes, those type of games can, um, probably, how can I say, trigger something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the trigger is not always negative, because for me, or people like myself, we get triggered to get some ins, and there are actually some. It's funny, but it's actually some exercises, because um, in Murkoff, what you have is that landscape, uh, somewhere in the beautiful wilderness slash of Colorado, but inside that facility and underground, that's what I was saying. The beauty of the wilderness landscape can fool people, because someone would, someone might not even think, oh wow, there's crazy stuff, that's happening behind those layers. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and you see, Jessica, it's not by chance, coincidence. Me playing that game, because it made me think too about why I played the game, Mafia 3, right? And in a couple months, I'm getting that connection indirectly with Lincoln Play, right? So, and but anyway, just the language I want to share is what was brought forward with Jessica and Peter about Murkoff, Rainstorm Corporation, uh, me being physically where I am now, and can pick information, um, uh, from Edinburgh Fields. It just confirmed what they talk, and basically what they're put forth as information, and it all makes sense, and it's always connecting somewhere or in other way. Yeah.
Well, when, there's a lot of people that kind of hooked into Kruger in particular, and Peter is the direct contact to Gabriel Kruger. And so what a lot of people don't realize is, in some ways, they're then, through Kruger, they're connected to Peter, or that Peter is the one that can determine what's going on. But not all are acknowledging Peter, so then there's less of assistance and so forth. But in your case, you are in Unit 374, you have a connection to Lincoln Clay. And so you're working closer. And so then they've given you more that you can do to assist and help, because the advantage of dealing with what happened with Outlast is the horrible experimentations. And they're probably continuing to bring in new people. And I don't know how big or how much access they have throughout the Americas, and maybe even other nations too. But they're definitely doing these MyLabs and experimentations. They're one of the bad guys that we would like to see shut down, kind of like with Monarch, and they do work together too.
Yeah.
So you're on a mission right now, in a way.
Yeah.
Focused in on it. And that's important.
Exactly. And me coming here, right? I already knew, but sometimes you have to confirm, because I won't tell the detail, but for sure, I came here through another thing, right? But the real stuff is not about what's bringing me here. It's, all the ACIO Kruger aspect, right? So just knowing that, let's say on the London level, I had to come here, I kind of felt that no, there's a bigger purpose. And, this is when I reach out to you, reach out to Peter. It all makes sense. But, when you living the daily life, right? Now it's get more intriguing about what we do on the daily life is one thing, but what we do, let's say, in the trenches, which is not visibly, all right, or it's not publicly known whatsoever, it's probably the driving force of my intentions, purpose, mission here, right? And what I do afterwards is secondary. So, secondary, I mean, work, whether people school, going to school whatsoever. This is secondary, but primary is really the interventions, all right, that we must do. So, yeah, um, it can be sometimes overwhelmed, right? But
Yeah.
once you get some tips and the reason why, now you get it's funny, but filled with a lot of mystery.
But you're also, you are kind of a little bit more in the trenches when you're working closer with Peter, and like I have been. And like I was sharing with you some of my little situations that I've been in,
Yeah.
where it becomes dangerous, but they do have your back, as opposed to if you're sort of in the outside, the outskirts, feeling like, if they don't notice I'm out here, maybe they won't call on me to do anything. And if you are have some relationship with Kruger, you can get pulled in very easily. You just won't know fully what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people that are still on the outside, the outskirts, we do try to provide information so that they have an idea of what's presently going on at this time.
Yeah. And probably people might feel that I'm speaking, with a lot of analogy and vague. It's because probably of the current situation. But you know what? Something funny is 2 days ago, I did receive like a message or signal, right? And I was where I am with my family. I can say it in the Ottawa area. And while traveling in our car, I saw like a luminous thing, right? Uh, but I know it was literally something that was sent for me to look. So I look like a luminous, bright orbs or whatsoever. Then probably 30 seconds, I was trying to check that orbs. I did not see it. And what I saw was an advanced aircraft, but from far. But I knew it was this because of previous stuff going on. But the aircraft was hovering, and I recognized the a lighting pattern. It's like it flashes like this. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and then telepathically I could tell that okay, it's me. It's like prepare yourself because you're gonna go to Colorado, and every time I'm seeing this, I know this is assistance. So this is only to reinforce what you, Jessica, is stating, right? You have assistance when you're in this line of work and you act yourself with good conducts. You get assistance in every time, even though we're not seeing it.
You feel it. You feel it at times. I always, it's really funny because when I'm close to something that's pretty heated, out of nowhere, Peter will call. Like he'll know that I'm touching on something there's some energy there. When we went to the Grand Canyon, he called. Like the timing was perfect. We just got there, looking at the landscape and how beautiful it was, and then there I am on the phone.
Yeah.
But there was something going on that was pretty dangerous that was affecting the planet, and maybe, like I said, they have me in that situation. And this similar, something urgent came up when I was in Montreal, and he called both of us. And then we were, turned out that I was there in Montreal at that time, and he was saying, you need to go over to Montreal. I was already there. Yeah. So.
Because I had an issue. Do you remember?
Yeah, why don't you remind me, or can you talk about it? Is the mission over?
Yeah. The issue was, let's put it forward. The issue was against my will, because in family concern, we had to travel, and I fight hard, really, but I got the so a couple of months after, when we were at that talk, Peter was I was thinking to you, Jessica, shit, there's so many choppers, and especially weird choppers, and sometimes
I remember that
only with one rotating Ellis. And Peter was like, well, you don't know, you have that chip. You see, so I was heavily, monitored or surveillance, right? So right after that time, we had a call, and he told when you were over there, he told me if I could go to Montreal, to deactivate that chip, right? And it was in my wrist. So that's the whole thing Jessica is stating. But I couldn't go at that particular time when Jessica was there, simply because of family duties whatsoever. But I went.
After,
I went afterwards, and that chip was deactivated. So
yeah, but they know this. They knew. Like I said, we have to go to Montreal. We went there more than once. And then the it hit the fan when we went up to Quebec. That was a whole other experience.
But you did some work in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
just to try to neutralize it, because all Canada's been hit pretty hard. I mean, they had the FAC, the Federal Army of the Commonwealth, which was the Nordics, that came down and started heavily tampering with everything. There was a lot of issues, and then of course the fires happened afterwards. I won't say it could have been worse. Like, well, it could have been worse, but we don't really know
No.
how bad some of these things could be, but he's been warning me for a while.
Yeah.
About different locations.
Yeah. And Monarch is, heavily present in Montreal. To a point, Jessica, when I was over there in 2016, a couple of months ago, before I was brought, no, before, let's say, Kruger or ACIO wanted me to go to Ottawa, I felt and this is intangible, so it's something you cannot see, but I felt this weird, like, web of energy in Montreal at that time, 2016, 2017, to a point where it's as if I was getting pressured. You see,
Mm-hmm.
something was really off around that time, and it still is, but um, it's it's a location where, again, uh, uh, despite all the activities and the joy that people may have, Montreal, I'm going to be honest, is the hidden part of Montreal, even underground, is really bad.
Yeah, we tried to clear it, but we could feel like there was some heavy energy there. And we were at a restaurant and I wanted to get a t-shirt because I have a t-shirt collection. It's one of those quirky things that I do. And so I thought, well, the woman said to us, well, gave us the street to go to. And it turns out that she was sending us down to the red light district. But we didn't know that because we're tourists.
Yeah.
So we're walking down the street, and it started getting weirder and weirder because we had to park somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was just like it's got seedier and seedier. You know what I mean? Like kind of like something wasn't right. We knew there was like some kind of odd people and different things going on. And then we started seeing like we had someone there that could speak French, and they said, "Well, I think this is where there might be like prostitutes and stuff here," because we were looking around and like, okay, that there's definitely something going on. And I think someone saw an individual that I don't know if it looked like it was a Klaus Schwab, or it just looked like either that or it was John. One of the Rockefellers, David Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Like just like people were looking like someone else, like maybe they were shapeshifters and they were messing with us. A person that stayed behind, they said that they were approached by someone that sort of looked like Trump. And they had to jump in the car and lock the door, and they started banging on the door. It was like just really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Some kind of anomalies happening there. So if there were any like intruders, energetic intruders or whatever, and they were on that street, wouldn't recommend anyone going there if they didn't have
to. Wow. And but you know what? Speaking of Montreal, it made me think about someone from the Merc that and Peter as well, right? Without stating her name, but she's from there as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. One of the merges from there. Yeah.
But she was going through the Merc thing literally in Montreal, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think somehow she ended up over in the Southwest, where then it was Life is Strange.
Okay.
Scenario happens in the Southwest. I don't know if it's Seattle.
Okay.
And a bunch of them went to school together, and this is where I was explaining to you that that situation that I had where they went to attack me, the one that's known as Maxine, has a specific ability. Chloe has kinesis. She can move things. I mean, literally can move furniture. Boom, lift them up, drop them down. I mean, Peter's told me things of, he's just like overwhelmed because, he can't control it. They can't control it. When they first rescued them, they were able to do things that were like, it was so spontaneous, unexpected, and it could tear up a whole room, in a second. If they got upset, that their emotions would create these anomalies. And so some of them they learned to get more control over it, in time, and then use it for, intergalactic kind of battles or protections and so forth, which they've been able to fight off different things that were supernatural or things that were not from our, not human in origin.
Yeah.
And so, because they have these, like, they're hybrid, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, Maxine has the ability that if someone in Life is Strange, Chloe is in a situation where she almost gets killed, or she does get killed, and she switches time and then brings her back so that she's okay and stops the whole scenario. And so after I had met them, I don't know if it was an example of what could happen, but they had an awareness that someone wanted to kill me because of the information that I was talking about, or harm me in some way. And so, and I was telling you, I was driving down the street in Europe, and there was a white vehicle there, and it was they went slightly ahead of us, and the guy turned around, and I was on the passenger side, and he kind of stuck his finger out at me, and it sounded like a pellet hitting the windshield, but I could feel it hit my chest.
Right.
But there was nothing physical that you could see, but the energy went right through. And at that moment, everything slowed down, and it's like I was moving through time space, but it was like slow motion, and I felt like I was like spinning in a few different directions at once. And then I found out that Maxine had changed the time, because that what they were trying to do was hit me in the heart, maybe induce like a heart attack of some sort, or I don't know how they were going to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens that fast. And it's I was looking at someone tell a story about how I don't know, it was someone on YouTube, maybe on TikTok, and said that these two guys decided they wanted to get a burger somewhere, mm-hmm. and that they got in the car, and they're driving to like Burger King or McDonald's, and a car hits them and they die. And then somehow time spun back, and then they saw themselves standing on a driveway or by the house and looking at each other like, did you see that? And both of them were like, maybe we shouldn't go get a burger. You know what I mean? And they stayed home. So it's like kind of when I was listening to them, I'm like, all right, I think I understand what they're talking about, because it was almost like a weird sensation that you get. And then you're back in that space again. And you think, all right, how close did you get to that moment where that was it? So it's kind of like a humbling type of thing. And, but at the same time, the energy of it shifting back also feels weird to the body.
Mm.
And you've probably been through something like that when you're doing some of your missions, imagine. Because you're getting in battles, you're getting in fights.
Oh, yeah.
Conflicts, especially close range with you in particular.
Yeah. And quickly, Jessica, to talk about, since we mentioned Merg in Montreal, so people familiar with Montreal, one of the point of interest, especially now with talk about Merg, is the Mount Worrell. And it's only later that I found that Mount Worrell, inside of the mount, Monarch and Mobius marked that mount physically outside by putting a cross on the mount. And And it's only later I said, but why? You know, thinking about, okay, the Catholicism whatsoever, but you know, it's all in disguise to mark that this is because more Royal is the not only the highest point of the island, but it's the inert, let's say it's the energy vortex of that land known as Montreal. Yeah, so that's why, um, you know, after the Reconstruction era, so let's say 1800 and 1850 afterwards, Reconstruction era, this is Mobius, right? Putting forth his whole other reality of artificial matrix, but this is why around the mount you have those prestigious, let's say, uh, schools and family that went to, you know, settle around that mount, in which form that, let's say, high elite, all right, um, neighborhoods of Montreal. So I'm thinking about Westmount, Outremont, and on and on. So, um,
And
you know,
that's where they get the name Montreal, right? Mount Royal. Is that how they get the name?
exactly, which was not the original name, right? But, uh, you know, as people who know, the Real is for royal or regal, right?
Is that the cross that you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, that thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I've seen Mobius. I've done this to several Portugal places on the American continent. So you have it in Brazil at Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
This was to put forth that they conquered the people of the land, right? And but it's Mobius. People won't say it as Mobius. People was gonna say it as the Vatican or, you know, the Jesuits, and that's the tricky thing. And Montreal was heavily run by Jesuit throughout the last century. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they create like there was when you suggested that I check that out, I felt like there's another structure here too. Do you know who that is?
Um, where's that? Oh, that yeah, that's still in
Oh,
the Montreal. That's yeah.
I just lost it. There it is. Yep, that statue. That's also on Mount Royal too, it says. But
And you know what? And look at this, Jessica. So you see that place, right?
mhm.
Genuinely, right? People are gathering there every Sunday to make some what they call tam tam. So it's basically people are making jam with their percussions, you know, and making dance and songs whatsoever. But something that I saw that Mobius and Monarch was doing is persuading or fooling whatsoever people to make stuff, but they would harvest that energy from the other one levels.
Yeah. Yeah, when they have this going on here, you can see the cross behind it.
Yeah.
Huh? So you had us go there, and that's exactly what I saw. I didn't know the history of it,
Okay.
and it brought. Remember, I told you I said it brought me all the way over to the Vatican,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that, but I didn't know that's where it was from because we were there at night, so we couldn't see the cross. We didn't see that
Oh,
part.
yeah.
We went to by a cemetery, but we also there's a university there too, isn't there? So we saw the university.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of university around the Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah.
University of Montreal, McGill University, um, and what else? Oh yeah. I mean, um, and
Go
you
ahead.
know,
Yeah.
stating McGill University. Again, it goes back to what really, was probably exposed in the 60s about the mind control experiment, but that was Murkoff in disguise,
Yeah.
So um,
They had
the
this
good
big
thing
book.
is, yeah, the good thing is, I know Murkoff, Monarch, Mobius, they're not literally. You won't see them literally, but they're showing themselves through activities and through, let's say, lower organization.
I want to share something. I found this, and I know like people are probably saying this is like artificial, like a video game, but this is really, really interesting. It's kind of the concept what Peter's been talking about the whole time about underground areas and cities. And
Yep.
so we'll share this as a link, but mostly, you're seeing someone going down these stairs and they see these underground, doors, and then it goes, of course, it's longer. And so there's like 4 parts to this until you come to, a door. You go down the stairs, it comes to a door, and then before you know it, you're in like this underground facility and what almost looks like a mall. Now, I can't tell you, I've been talking about this stuff for years with Peter, and he's been telling me, because there's underground cities, there's whole civilizations. They live better down there than you do above ground. He says,
Hmm.
you're the ones that are struggling. And like in North Korea, he says it's opulent. He says they have so much, but it's all underground. He says the ones that are above ground are like the slaves. They have to work hard. They're vulnerable. They can't have to watch what they say. They're being tested all the time. That sort of thing. And you know, the fact that people are videotaping something like that, or even if they're creating it, because nowadays it's almost getting hard to tell what's real and what's CGI. I
Yeah.
mean, some of the games are starting to look so realistic
Yeah.
that,
Of
yeah.
course.
So
Yeah. And, speaking about the same thing. So is when I found out, and that was at the time of Montreal, and I'm always thinking, okay, why there's things that are such a point of interest to me, right? It's only later on, with knowing what's the involvement, ACIO, getting in touch with you, Peter, and Kruger, and going through stuff. Uh, there's these things in there's particular places, but again, Montreal, Montreal, and Montreal, I could literally saw a structure, but I won't see the walls. I won't see the doors. What I'm saying is underlying structure. And people, so you if you do want to have a better probably understanding of what I'm saying is, if you see architecture drawings before you get the whole building whatsoever, there's always construction lines. I'm seeing arrays, but um, um, again, I won't see detail as, okay, this is that wall. It's concrete. No, but I'm gonna see like the shape, but the morphogenetic, let's say, yeah, aspect of things. So uh,
so
this is
just so
yeah, but
people know, you have a civil engineering background.
yeah,
Is there,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
you're used to looking at buildings, structures. So if you were to see something that was underground, like if they had the specific technology that allows you to look underneath the ground, and you could see by a structure something, whether that is a building,
yeah,
as opposed to just an anomaly in the stonework, right?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly it. So, um, but again, this, all of this helped throughout the course to see that um, all of this is really to aid people, humanity, right? It's
Hmm.
not for personal gain. And
No, no.
yeah, exactly.
But
So,
that all the activity that we're having problems with is going on underneath us. Everyone's looking up in the sky. Some of it's happening from above us, but a lot of our problems, they're already, people are saying, well, waiting for the ETs to show up. Well, they're already here. That's why you don't notice that there's not a big event, because they've been here for a long time, and they're
yeah,
underground. Particularly the nefarious ones are underground. But even the ACIO is underground. I mean, Peter's in an underground base, or when wherever he goes.
hmm,
So, that's why he's so familiar. He knows where all these places are, and they're around the whole world, not just in like uh, the U.S. or the Americas, or I mean, they're all over the place,
yeah.
and even like third world countries, they have them.
Oh yeah,
These places exist.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh definitely. And you know, with the connection, you mentioned this third world, right? Because again, probably pick up another example to see how Mobius is doing stuff. So, particular point of interest is 80, and because of what went on, uh, it was targeted to really at the surface, right? To really be a place with a lot of issues and conflicts. It's not civil wars, but it's conflicts, right? In which
Right. Yeah, it's bad.
misery there, instability, in terms of economy, political instability. But yet, below 80, there's wonders, a lot of wonders. So uh, I know the concept of uh, third world was fabricated as part of Mobius reality matrix. And
I have some.
say that again.
No, and nothing. I was just looking up because of what you're saying, and with Haiti, um, there's a video game, not a video game, a TV series that I was looking up while you were talking. Apologize if it sounded rude. But I was also thinking about. I think it's underneath. Is it Cuba? In one of those islands, and maybe even under Haiti, they have known ET civilizations that are underneath.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, Puerto Rico is another one. People have told me they've visited there and they see spacecrafts going up and back into the water.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And I have my share of experiences, but you know, well, you mentioned it. Especially indigenous people who've been in contact with ETs. I'm gonna say since time immemorial because uh, people talks about their experiences like in the islands, but when Peter talked about the 15D Pleiades, it brought like a whole understanding of that correlation with the people and mystical and advanced beings, right? Whether they're on the water, throughout inside trees, or caves, um, even at different places. I had my share of experience at a waterfall, but yeah, I mean, uh, I agree with you. The whole concept of ET disclosure, it's always been there. Uh, I don't think there will be a disclosure because their presence has always been there, right?
For thousands of years, they have
Yeah,
been living amongst us. So, and of
exactly.
course, they don't want to destroy, and the nefarious ones are causing the problems,
Yeah.
because then there's some newer ones that have showed up that wanted the genetics and wanted to do different things with humans, and this is where we're starting to get hybrids. And so but we've had hybrids in the past. I mean, they've done experimentation where you see ancient Greece and Rome, they had half animal, half human. Atlantis, way back then, there were these type of experiments. I believe they're the same species. They're really old. They've
Hmm.
been around for a very long time. And it's at the point of the fall of Atlantis, they came in pretty heavily, similar to what's happening to really just going out and doing whatever they feel like doing, and like no regard, because almost like there was a message sent out to the galactics that we're going under in some way. And so then they come in and start doing their
Right.
business, whatever they experimentations, just because they can.
Yeah.
And so that's it's kind of a bad sign that we're in a bad situation, and we need to awaken and not let it go any further, and not leave ourselves vulnerable, because it's almost like a scavenger hunt. Scavengers that come in, they're waiting while people, like, their prey is dying, or they don't have any water, and they're just kind of circling around,
Yeah.
and that's essentially what they're doing. And so it's like a distress call, like I tell Peter, I wish we could let everybody know, and we've had so many obstacles just to get the information out of people, getting hung up on an accent of Peter's, or not liking the way he explains things, which are hard because English is not his first language. But we're trying to get the information out, do whatever we can, so that the people have a better understanding. They're not so much in the dark, so they can like focus their energy on something a little bit more positive. But they can't. It's almost like they're trying to figure it out, and they don't know who to go after. They don't know how to protect themselves, and they're kind of vulnerable. And we're trying to give them the tools to be solid, to be here, to be present. And there's a lot of people that can be soldiers, that can be protectors, that you would never expect. Like the mother that goes and lifts a car for the child gets driven over or something. I mean, there's incredible things that people can do when they really need to. And I think it's just like a whole thought of awareness, not ignoring the information. And if you think that we're not telling the truth, I mean, just look through history. I mean, it's all there. This is nothing that I could have made up, or Taino, Tyson. I'll say both because some people know you as Taino. Not a lot of people. We just didn't make any of this stuff up. It's written throughout history, and that's another reason why they want to get rid of our history. Yeah, there's like all of this. It's right there if you really want to search and find it. I think there was a guy that talked about. I think it's Eric von Daniken that talked about how that there are the history of the gods, and how like that they were actually related to extraterrestrials. And so instead of saying that, well, those are that's lore, or that's made up, or those are just like story time,
Hmm.
for early people. And it's not. I mean, that they were literally saying some of their experiences. It's just we didn't know how to interpret it.
Right.
Yeah, so like the people on the islands, uh, especially in the Atlantic, where you come from, is influences of Atlantis. And I know there are people that will argue where exactly Atlantis is, but I think they affected all of the islands. I think the islands and going all the way up through the Atlantic Ocean, there's an impact, and
Yeah.
buried technology in different locations from whatever happened to Atlantis.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a common mistake, and you said it right, um, people should not do is trying to pinpoint Atlantis physically. Because there's a lot of, when I say mysteries, is things that may go beyond one's uh, probably paradigms, right? Or understanding. And because I know for a fact that there's places in the Antilles, all right, or the islands that you have access, and Atlantis is still there technically, but there's specific places where you can have access and you go there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you know. Um, oh yeah, that's for sure. So um, I know it was portrayed as Atlantis being, in the in Atlantic whatsoever. Okay, but I think in one of the show that you did with Peter, um, you were talking about that subject, and the thing that came out is Atlantis is still there. It's only not in that same form of. I think you and Peter are calling it fifth array density or fifth.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So.
Yeah, that they were much more evolved spiritually and
Mhm.
technologically than us. They got
Yeah.
an invasion, I think, which brought is the same thing as happening to us. It changed the vibration consciousness of people. So when you had this invasion, of these other races that came in towards the end, it's very similar what we're going through. I mean, a lot of people compare what we're going through as biblical, but I could see also that there's other patterns that have happened in time in the past.
Of
But
course.
yeah, physically, there is a location up in, trying to remember what nation it's near. It might be near Greece or something, where they found something that looks like the dimensions of, maybe Plato, one of the philosophers,
Mhm.
talked about. And this is what Atlantis looked like. I remember being in Atlantis. I wrote about it, and it
Mhm.
was a very, very beautiful place and beautiful buildings. And then and we had abilities too, not like now where we're limited in what we can do.
Right.
But there's you can see along the coast, whether you're going to Greece or whether you're going. Some people feel that Atlantis is over by Ireland, and if you go into the ocean, you can see like little, remnants or explanations of like cities. Kind of, you can see structures and different things. So it's like really, it's a broad area. And I don't know how it all fit in or how it works. So maybe we're like another, um, maybe it was like in another timeline or something else where, the landscape or the actual, the landmass actually fit together, because it fits together like a puzzle if you put it all together.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like there would be a space for an Atlantis if you actually constructed
Mhm.
the, like Europe to the Americas and all that.
Mhm.
But so there's another explanation. We know it existed. I mean, there's definitely these cities that still exist there, plus the anomalies like the Bermuda Triangle and some others.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But all of this is, speaking about ETs and the ACIO. Um, I think for a fact, all of this, the ACIO has records of all of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they have a long history and access of the things that they've been looking and monitoring. And the best way for people to know about the history of the ACIO, we constructed a video. It's we don't have, a Hollywood team to help us put it together, but did the best that we could to explain, and Peter really wanted to put the history and storyline together, and which we did. We constructed it, and we have it accessible. We'll put it in the links here so people can watch it. It reveals a lot of their role, why they're here, and also the fact that they did not go public. They didn't go. This is the first time they really have gone public, aside from the Wingmakers. The Wingmakers sort of were part of the 15th Division, came forward and started talking about some of the things that have happened. And that's, close to the region that you're at, which is by Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. So you're in Colorado. It's a little south of you. And that's an area where the ACIO showed up in the 15th Division. And so, with the 6th Division, the 12th Division is Peter. Peter is taking the lead and has come forward from the ACIO. They typically will not go public. For thousands of years, they have not gone public. But they have intervened when it was necessary, and it shows the history of when they did intervene. And also the records that they have are very exhaustive, that Peter has particularly access to.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. And Peter is he's a very open guy. Like he's almost like trusting, naive in some ways, like not naive, but he's very open to people. And then I think at that point some people started to take advantage of that. And so, we had to pull him a little bit away, because I think that people were trying to do things or change things, or I don't know. They don't know what to do with the information, I think, especially their personal information. It's uncomfortable for people. He doesn't always bring, his information is focused on the bad stuff at first, because I think he wants you to realize and then correct certain things, but people get offended. And so I think he pulled away from doing private sessions with others. But those of us that understand where he's coming from, you just kind of take the information, say, that's interesting. And I would look at it and say, oh, okay, that makes sense. And some of it I would recognize. And I'm sure you had the same moment where you kind of looked at it and said, wow, I didn't realize that.
Oh, a lot of times. Yeah, a lot of times. It's a lot of times. But it's all good, because once it makes. Because one thing too is going through all of this, but dealing with the modern world at the same time. This is a challenge. But once you find, when someone is finding their ways of coping, because there's stuff that you're going through, you cannot share it publicly, because it won't be probably, not probably, for sure, it's going to be hard for even your close one to get what you're saying. You see, so one has to be cautious. And I know this is a reason why, benevolent groups won't show themselves like this and that. So when it's speaking about disclosure, right, or when disclosure is going to happen, or fortunately, for one reason, those benevolent groups have to conduct their things secretly, because the level of understanding for society is not there to cope with that context of reality, unfortunately, you see. So but despite this, this is why, I'm really helping the group, because when I'm able to see that group that Jessica and Peter talk, well, there are, you might be able to see them as this way. Murkoff is going to be that way, Mobius that way, Monarch that way, you see. And because even those corporations, they're acting covertly. They're doing their operation covertly.
Yeah.
You won't find their stuff at the, surface layer. It's really down there. But once you know, okay, which component, or once you know how they operate, then you know, okay, you can see the signature, and then you see, oh, okay, this organization is part of, okay, Smithsonian, oh, Mobius, oh, um, I'm thinking about, like, major pharma, Bayer, oh, Umbrella, on and on. So
Yeah. I mean, you see like a little bit of it above ground. Like you said, the Umbrella Corporation has vehicles with their the little insignia on there and says Umbrella Corporation.
yeah,
And people have shared those vehicles before. And there's also, like, I think when we were looking at Delphi years ago before you were around, I think we started finding different perfume companies that had like little signs that it was connected to Delphi. And then there was also Shaw House that, had certain locations but they're hard to find, but even though it's supposed to be a big space. So you've
yeah,
kind of like, I remember driving and seeing signs in, I think it was it Denmark, where you see a place that's called Monarch. And also I found other symbols of that in other locations as well. So as you start looking around, they have a little bit of kind of a presence. None of them have a brick and mortar, like a big stone building or something where people can go knock on the door and say, hey,
yeah,
we know what you're up to.
yeah, no,
So, and that's what makes it harder for people to believe what we're saying. But think about it. If you're doing that type of work, would you just have a visible building where people can just knock on your door? I mean, of course not. Even people in the syndicate in our reality or our context of existence, people that are dealing, trading weapons or drugs or anything like that, they don't have a storefront. I mean, it's the same thing.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, um, yeah, definitely, But at the same time, too, where it's really in plain sight, because of how we've been able, I'm going to say how, because at a point, uh, I did not know better, but it's through entertainment. I mean, if, let's say, if we would tell, which actors is a Monarch operative, or even the Shaw House as three of the members, prolific members outside of there. You've talked about it, went through experiences against them. Um, I get it. It may be hard for people, because Charles has three members that are out there, three celebrities,
Mhm.
and literally, constantly. And one of them is constantly, mentioned, the without mentioning a name, but the singer. Is it something true with Monarch? There's so many actors out there that if you and Peter would list their names, people will be really surprised. You know.
Do you know when before you came in, or at least you're aware that you were in, um, the Peter started talking about the Fast and Furious series, and so we did a couple of years of that, and he started talking about the Shaw House, And then Fast and Furious came out with Hobbs and Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wasn't lying. He's not lying. He's like letting us. He sees. He knows what's coming. He knows what's in the future. He knows who they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was originally called Fast and Furious, and then towards the end, it becomes Hobbs and Shaw.
Exactly.
Yeah, the name's right there.
You know, and one of the thing is, yeah, it's like the guy, right, from the Shaw House, which people knew as Jason Statham, but because of his military training and advanced training, Peter met the real guy. You know that Jason Statham was like a simply a clone of him, right? So um, from his perspective, I get it sometimes it may be, but what the heck, what the f, people are doing, because he literally knew the guy, and you know uh, that crazy sport about that guy, and he's trying to share what was not new to him, but you know and that's the thing, Jessica. I understand sometimes when people when Peter's stating that about what the heck people are doing, but it's tough because the Mobius structure was so well implanted or put forth, right? Uh, uh, that it makes it hard, right? It makes it hard uh, for a good percentage of individuals to get the information. And I think that's nothing. I know for a fact that's why you've been putting out the information out there, but at the same time too, um, you have that group, 12 deep Palladians, that through those corporations and through whatsoever put influencers out there that's speaking about disclosure. I won't say their name, but that talks about disclosure, that talks about operations, um, exaggerating some stuff, right? And it puts general people in awe, you know? Oh, this is what's going to happen, or when this disclosure is going to happen, whatsoever, you see? So um, you have that deceptive but well structure media group that putting information out there that's trying to overshadow, not trying, purposely overshadowing works from good people, right? Such as Jessica and Peter. Because I've been able to extract that information, and I knew at that moment that okay, it's it's okay, but it's part of those challenges that I believe sometimes we got to, not sometimes, a lot of times that we have to go through, right?
Well, the like you said that the negative ET groups, they don't want people to know certain things, and if you're talking about certain things that they don't want the public to know about, they'll create distortions or illusions or whatever. And
Yeah.
when you joined us, I was like, look at this one. They're saying that they work for us, or look at this other one that's using our website. And I was just like, it was so bizarre. It was the strangest thing, and I knew that's the type of thing that the 12D does, is where they
Mm-hmm.
distract and distort, and they literally can create an illusion, and they can also do a mind wipe. They can do a lot of different things. And so, you were talking about that frequency that you felt in when you were in Montreal, or even where you live. And, we talk about scalar as that actual structure. But some of the ETs actually, like I know that the reptilians, I was told the reptilians actually have a natural scalar, and they can read your mind, and they can go into your head, and they can create like an illusion of something that's happening that's, people don't know what's going on. And you're seeing some weird incidences of people on planes now that are freaking out on the plane because it's almost like they got some kind of narrative going on in their head.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it could be sort of like they're actors, but if they're actors, they're pretty good actors. I mean, they look like they're very distressed, and or they're on drugs. I mean, I don't know, but we could say everyone's on drugs, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're literally, getting tuned into something that's creating a distortion, and they happen to be able to be open to it or whatever. And they can do, I know they can do that. And I've had hundreds of clients that have come to me saying that, a certain voice, and they tell them, it's usually something that's dangerous for them because it tells them to, like, they kind of can lose it, or they can, they try to get them to suicide. They try to get them to hurt other people, or, that kind of programming. And it's not all military. Some of it's, ET based. And, but that frequency, the scalar, that kind of energy, there's this, it's almost like turning a radio channel slightly, and then you can tune into it. And so it's out there. It's running constantly. For some people, it can be very tormenting. And that's the kind of thing that they've been doing as well.
Oh yeah.
So getting back to what you said about people bringing in distortions, those are the kind of distortions they can actually, use certain people to then create different narratives to block certain people, or to talk bad about certain people, or and they don't even know why. I mean, I think, like, when I started looking at some of these people doing these things, and I'm looking at them, and they are like, do they just hate us, or they don't even know us? How is this happening, or why is this happening? Are they, having a conversation? Are they saying that we're bad because of, maybe we talk about the NAZIs, but I mean, hey, at this point, there's a lot of people that have done something bad, so that can't be the reason. And we're not just promoting them, we're just revealing information of activity, just like we do of any group.
Right.
So what is it? And I always felt like there was this, 12D has done a whole lot to me personally, on a personal level. And I don't like to focus on them particularly as being the most nefarious. For me, they have been. They've been really, like, since my childhood, taken me, mylabbed me, and all that stuff. So I do have a thing for them. But I do know that for sure that they do not like what we're doing. They do not like Peter revealing information from the ACIO. And they're trying to control that. And so, and unfortunately, a lot of people are tuning into them thinking that they're giving them wise advice. And, but they're using them. They're creating clones. They're doing all sorts of things using DNA.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you we won't talk too much about them, but I felt the connection a lot heavily. All right, because genetically, I can still remember what happened. What with the wars, right, on the Arael people in Haiti or Mexico, or the conquest of the people in Peru. But later on, I saw it was 12D. But um, you know, when looking at all the major corporation, right, that's doing harm, they're behind them, or at least,
They're working with them. That I
yeah,
think some of them are, we could say, like, they're on their board. like they have, say if they're organized, because I've been brought into, like, I think there was like a Pleiadian council meeting. I remember sitting in the seats with one of my guides, and they have, it's almost like we have our courtroom meetings. They have them too. They had them before we did. We learned from them, and they may have discussions about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And so the corporations then get advice from the galactics, which give them the technology and everything that help them to become further, much more advanced than the governments.
Right.
So that's where the shadow government, the shadow group comes from. Same thing. The ET groups had to have helped them to be able to, bypass the general rules of 20 and back, and to be able to, go back and forth as they did. And the ACIO gave me all that information of the travel and where they went.
Yeah.
The shadow group, that whole timeline is from the ACIO. They gave me that information.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that they say the 12D, which I've been in their groups and I've had arguments with them. I have an awareness of an argument, like if I wake up or have a dream or a vision, and I can see I'm having this conversation about how they're treating humanity or whatever. They don't like me. But there's that whole thing of they have to help in order for these other groups to rise above. So that's why these corporations are like almost not light years ahead of us, but have access to tools that they can go in and out. They can cloak. They were doing all this stuff before the governments. And then when they want to control the government, they give them a little bit, a little bit of technology here, a little there. Yeah.
So, quickly is, I think it was with Gene out of talk, and I could connect that, let's say the whole industry, and this is the link I'm going to do, the whole industry of pornography. I could pinpoint, but it's not me really pinpoint it. It's the information is already there. It's only I was led to see that 12D is behind pornography, and especially now it's coming to another mindness, because if you read the title whatsoever, it becomes really immoral, right? So the same thing too with the whole gender problem slash, people already know what I'm stating, but there's a particular group that's bringing madness now and confusion about, the orientation. But all of this, what I'm trying to say is, even there's a popular thing. It starts with N. It's 2 words. I know, Jessica, you mentioned that if you tell the truth about it, the community would be really pissed, right, or mad at us. But then again, Peter is always stating, like, when we were saying, who's buying this? Peter would say, well, it's easy. Well, that paradigm or that mindset, it started with N and the other words start with G.
Is it Nasara? We can just say it.
Yeah. Again, who's behind this? It's them again. That's what I could pinpoint. And it's all about good things that, it makes feel good, but there's the whole deception. And I think it's revealing who they are, because they're all about, Peter was saying, being as the savior whatsoever, and to feel good, it's going to work, but it's all a trap, or it's all
still waiting and waiting and waiting.
Exactly.
Which it hurts me, because it's people that are, they don't have anything. They're waiting, and I don't like anyone taking advantage of another individual. And then at the same time, they get so angry at me. And it's like, all right, I have to step back. I can't, it's hard. Getting back to the whole pornography thing, that the 12D or the Pleiadians are known for being the most attractive of the ET races. I mean, if humans had a fantasy of, a space romance, I mean, that would be it. For most people, they'd say, wow, they're definitely the most attractive. And so for them, the allure, the appeal, and also then with attractive people, statistically have been known to the ones that you usually are drawn to or trust. So they actually did a study, for example, of JFK. And I think Nixon was running against him. And it's JFK up here and Nixon down here as far as appearance.
Right.
He's a younger guy in his 30s. All the women were crazy about him. All the guys thought, he'd be a great guy to be a friend with. And Nixon just, they just didn't really like. I mean, it's like that. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Appearance has a major role on certain things. So, and that's the part we do need to kind of get past. We need to stop judging people by appearance 100%, because we've been groomed that way too with celebrities. And the media and those that are in front of us talking every day, we're expecting to have people look a certain way. So they have influencers. They became famous mostly because they're young and they're very attractive, male or female.
Yeah.
And so the 12D, they know all of this. They don't actually look that attractive, but that they know that that's what's going to help them. And so they want to interact with humans, and they have to make themselves look outstanding. And so, and that's how they were able to draw in with all of their agendas. Mm-hmm. Like Semyase. I can't tell you how many people fell in love with Semyase, and Semyase is a part of that group, very much a part of that group. So there's that. And then the gender thing is a no-brainer for me too, because not all species humans are male, female, but other races of species are not. Mm-hmm. Some of them are androgynous. Some of them have multiple genders, like more than we can count, I guess. I don't know, Peter says like a crazy amount of genders. I don't know how that could be, but.
Yeah. And it's not, and that definition is not, that definition is, because people are saying it as human notion, it's not like this. You know what I mean?
Human emotion?
No, if people are saying, oh, male, female, right? But to get a good grasp of what you're saying, multiple genders or ETs have their other stuff too, it's not at the same 3D conception.
No, they're not. They're imposing their genetics or their biological makeup or whatever you want to call it. They're imposing that on us, or they're actually, which is even worse. That someone's being extracted from their body and they're taking over the body. Mm-hmm. And then they decide that they're going to be the other gender, just create the trauma for everybody else around it. It's upsetting. If it wasn't upset, I mean, that's part of the excitement for them, is that it's upsetting to people, and it's confusing. And when you're in warfare, right? You're in warfare. Well, some of the things that you do are very straightforward. All right. So I have a gun, you have a gun. Or it's tactical. we're going to go around this direction. We're going to hit them from over here.
Yep.
The war that we've been fighting is particularly East against West, right? The shadow group war, we'll say, is psychological confusion of what nation you're serving, confusion of what's food that you need to eat. You don't need to eat food. You can eat bugs now. Confusion of what gender you are, the confusion of, and so now the parents are interacting with the kids and like, where's all this coming? You know, it doesn't make any sense. There's something wrong with my child.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with your child. You have no idea how many hours per week they're learning all of this other stuff. And that is a warfare. That's a residual from like the Cold War where they were still unhappy. We've got nations that are still unhappy about what the Europeans, with the Americans, with different things that have happened. So they've created psychological war. But with the assistance of ETs because it's very complex.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
How they were able to enact this. And so out of nowhere, we find out that there's a large population of a newer generation that is 100% Marxist. And it's like, what? How did that happen? Well, through education, this has been going on. People didn't even catch it.
Right.
You know, as an American, I've seen quite a bit, and it's not like I'm 20 years old. So I've seen quite a lot of different variations because the United States not only has been through multiple wars, but we've had so many cultures. I mean, I grew up with people that were from Haiti. You know what I mean? I had people from every culture around me because I lived close enough to the city. Not everyone did in the United States. So for me, other cultures were normal. For some other people, they were like, oh, you're really different, you know? I mean, if me as an American, if I go to certain parts of the country, they think I'm like a foreigner because of the way I talk or my last name or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's now you introduce all of this other stuff, talk about confusion. And I think people it's almost like culture shock. The older adults are like, all right, so you go to school, you get your education, you go to college, you get a job. These kids went to school, got their education, started protesting. You know what I mean? And created this whole movement and turned everything upside down and then started saying, don't call me he or she, call me him, her, or they, them. And you know what I mean? However, so now they brought in a whole other language.
The whole problem. Yeah.
But it was a propaganda part of the warfare. And so what happens when these things happen? You don't know what to do. How do you combat it? You don't combat it. You're frozen. You're just like, all right, you know, like you're trying to get your balance. What's going on here? It's like you're in the twilight zone. That's what people are experiencing. They don't understand what this is.
Yeah. And it's subtle, huh? It's really subtle. You know, like you mentioned, she, he, it, them, right? And to a point, do you remember when I shared to you that photo from the specific company, by the way, that I had to go with, you know, to get information, and which is a Monarch company, but it's subtle, and they had the same colors as Monarch, but it has a W-E, a little cardboard, and it has we, and you connected to something about the Ouija board, or I think it was an entity, we whatsoever. You remember that?
Yeah.
And again,
it is. It's subtle, and they're bringing in the symbology of different things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's always, the same stuff, right? At the surface, now people, we, it, them, she, he. Uh, then you see corporations or companies that's pushing this, but behind them, okay, it's a monarch. But who's a really, real monarch? Oh, 12D. So now it becomes obvious when things are going on, and Peter said, well, for me, it's easy. It's always them. So it's always that group of, the first ET group. And they are everywhere, basically. And that's the worst thing.
Well, when I first, started talking to Peter, I mean, we taught like 2016, 2017, we had these shows, and he was talking about all these different things. He said something like, oh, there's going to be a bunch of people wearing like black uniforms, and they're going to be walking your street, and you're not going to know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he would just say stuff like that. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And then years later, I see Antifa.
Right.
And I still think there's another group coming along, because in France, when they started having rebels and everything, these, that they were calling them RoboCops, were showing up, and they had no emotion.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hope that I always felt like there might still be more to this, but he knew, and it was his way of describing it, that you trying to find what exactly is he talking about, because if it's something you haven't seen yet, you don't know how to like figure out exactly what it is until it's there. And then he says, oh, I told you that already. I said, I know, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it at the time. And I know that's how the public looks at us, like, well, what, we don't know how to wrap our head around it, or Peter's, he's talking in circles or whatever. And I think he's searching for the words to say it, first of all, because of the English part of it. And the other part is, some of it, he has to watch how he says it, right?
Yeah.
He has to make sure he doesn't get me in trouble, or him in trouble, or you in trouble, when he's revealing the information, because there's a fine line of disclosure and then almost exposing too much where people are in danger.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's tricky.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I think we're coming to a point where people are starting to grasp what this is all about. And the more is coming out that is going to help us to be able to step back. And I think, like I said, when all of these things started happening, people were immobilized. Like, it's almost like you're in shock. And you just stand there and you're just looking like, all right, what do I do? How do I deal with this? Because it didn't make any sense. And the more that you understand what it is, you have your footing. And so now you have people that are speaking out and saying, wait a minute, this does not make any sense. And this has nothing to do with education, or this has nothing to do with our society, or this is only a small segment of society. Why are we conforming everything around that? So people are starting to vocalize finally after a few years, and people are like, well, why didn't anyone protest when these things were happening? Because they didn't understand what it was. They were shocked. And now we're coming out of shock and we can speak, but there's no guarantee there aren't any more curveballs coming. There's more that's going to shock us going forward. We're not finished with this, and we haven't removed the nefarious groups that are traumatizing us essentially through some of these different things, because it's part of a tactical war.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And it comes back now to, again, that place here. I didn't know it was called, that place here, Colorado, was one of the four corners, but I asked you yesterday, or I told you, you know what, it felt familiar, and you told me like, yeah, and obviously it looks like they brought you before here. And I went to get the information, and it was if it was confirmed that you know I recognized this place because of past activities. Uh, but again, you see in the correlation, you've been there, uh, and you went to the what's it called, uh, where the wing makers did their stuff.
Chaco Canyon. Chaco Canyon, yeah.
Chaco Canyon, right? Okay, so and I'm here too. Um, been here before. Now, for me, even it's a little complicated to explain it. But uh, whenever I travel and I recognize that place, and felt like shit. I know this place. It has been there before. It happens, in other places too. So uh, I'm able to say, okay, this is what I came for. But uh, you've been there. I think it was a long time ago, right? You came here, right?
To Colorado. I went to
Yeah.
Colorado before I went to do Sundance, and that was probably around 2013 or so, maybe
Okay.
right after 2012 or around that time. And that was and I went to the South Dakota, to the
Okay.
Dakotas, but we stopped in Colorado first, and I remember the landscape and the energy was very strange to me. I don't know. I could feel a lot of metal. I
Mm,
couldn't describe it. It was almost like I felt like that there was the earth, but it felt like a sheet of metal underneath it.
okay.
And I maybe I was picking up the underground. I don't know, but had the air quality, everything. I remember just felt unusual. Not that the air quality was bad, but it was just unusual to me. And it was a place that I didn't feel like I was at home at all.
Yeah.
But like you said, you feel more comfortable with it, and it might have been a different area of Colorado that I went to, but it was years back, and I felt like I liked the South Dakota better at the time. And maybe I would change now. I don't know.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. Yeah. The thing is, coping with that line of duty, uh, especially for us, right? Kruger or Unit 374, that ACIO related, um, and coping with the regular, let's say, normal life. Uh, it takes to a point I had to embrace it because a couple years ago I was asking for this, right? Now it's here. Uh, I can't back down, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is as well, sometimes I may expect, oh, this is something that way is going to happen, and the mysteries show you something else. So all of this to say that um, you know it takes really like a good heart, because those activities that we may do is really, I'm going to say, sometimes private, or it's secretive, but yet it makes it's make a whole difference to the people, and not only the people, but to locations as well. So um, my advice now, going through all of this, is basically, having trust in oneself, and basically knowing that if you have to do something for a higher purpose, just putting the effort and focus into it. because there's a lot of distraction. Sometimes it may comes from even friends, but it's families. But it's really putting the focus, and basically that is it. And you know we you talk about Area 58 Rainstorm Corporation. Yeah, today, making connections that, oh, for me, it's the biggest connection is Area 58 and the Denver International Airport, right? Markov is still here, all right? Kruger is doing something. As we all know, it's nothing can be disclosed at this moment, uh, but Kruger is definitely here, and um, it's it makes you feel that okay, uh, you know all the news that went on right about Ransom Corporation, uh, the migrant issues, at the borders whatsoever. But you're finally here, so um, I say good art, but really it's really having a good conduct, and because it's easy to step off the line. With Jessica better than I do. It's easy to step off the line and go or do whatever that you want, but um, it's really this right, doing what's good for people, uh, and just trusting, that higher purpose. So this is what I wanted to share basically, because sometimes it's not in your face, and you may go through mysteries or uh, I'm gonna say paranormal activities, but it's not until you're in it that you're seeing it. Sometimes we may want that it happened in a way, or you're gonna go outside and you're looking for this, but it's not like this. Most of the time, things are from my end, at least I gotta say. So yeah, this is what I wanted to share basically.
I think it's important what you just shared. Yeah, because it kind of you've been very active and it letting people know what your experience is there. So people know that we're busy, we're doing the work, we're doing sacrificing certain parts of our life to help humanity, but uh, not like and even dangerous situations, but kind of working through it and we're okay. But it's a choice. It's a choice that we make. But then, like you said, some people are doing it as well, but they're not in close enough where, they could get more help because they
Yeah,
have difficulties at times.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
But it's real. I mean, you have moments where you're just like, wow, I'm really in this. I'm really in a lot deeper than I thought I was going to be. And it's not like something that just happened overnight, but it feels like it at times. You're like, you're much deeper than you realized into this, or you're right in the middle of something, or you have a recall and you're in a very hot situation.
Hmm.
And
Oh yeah,
so it gets very real. So now here
yeah,
you are. You went from where you live to Colorado, and you're seeing a connection. You're seeing this is the beginning of this purpose, and everything will line up the way it's supposed to. If that's where you're supposed to be, it
yeah.
will line.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Effectively, because prior coming to Ottawa, um, initially I was going over there 10 years before, but because I was not tapping to this paradigm, right? I said no. You know what I mean? But it's funny that 10 years later, when I got that job in that area, I said, oh shit, okay, this is meant. Because I'm going to say, I was unemployed for 8 months, you see, and
Yeah.
search a lot of things in Montreal and couldn't find anything. Did a lot of interviews, couldn't find anything. I know I had to go through this probably challenge moment. And when this opportunity came out, I knew, oh, okay, this is, that's a mystical thing, right? But did not know who it was specifically. So, one, you learn through it, right? And then 12 times you make better decisions and not dumb ones, I'm going to say, you see, regarding this. And like you said, yeah, the point is you're in it. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not known by this. The funds, I don't have millions, but yet, what we do is even more important than all of this. Just you're like the regular guy or regular woman, but yet,
Right.
you know,
Right. You have knowledge or information from experiences and things that are happening.
yeah,
And yeah, regarding the money, no, we don't get paid. I know people don't believe that, but we don't get paid. We do this because we really feel that this is the right thing to do. So there's no income coming from it. So our income has to come from other sources. That's why donations are appreciated.
mm-hmm.
But that's, or I work with people individually. That helps. But the problem with that is for me, and you have like a 9 to 5 sort of, but for me, I have if I'm on call or Peter calls me or I have to go do something, I can't work that day, or I have to change an appointment, or I miss an appointment or something like that. It's kind of like being in between two worlds. It's never been easy, and I know some people to this day are angry at me, thinking I was avoiding them or ignoring them, and it has absolutely nothing to do with that. And I hope maybe later on in time people will understand it more. But in your case, you have you're juggling a few things. You got a family and other things, and yet you're still doing it, and it's really, and you're very, very good at what you do. So that's impressive. But all the soldiers from Unit 374 are very much, engaged in what's happening right now, and also, we'll say we're grateful for Kruger too, because they've held back a lot. But I find that Unit 374 is more concentrated. It's almost like the elite team.
It's like for more complicated matters. That's
right.
Where I'm saying that.
Yeah. Well, Taino, Tyson, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for this is your time where you're traveling. You're kind of taking a look at everything and deciding, making decisions. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us and share with us from a whole other location. And it's been a very good conversation.
Oh, thanks to you, Jessica. Thanks to you, Ralph, and thanks to all the individual, all right, who's going to watch this, and they have their ears to to listen and understanding as well. So thanks to all of you.
Okay, well, thank you for listening today, and thank you for being here on Andronetalks Radio. We appreciate you. Have a good day, everyone.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco, and visit our website at www.readingsbyarael.com.